Welcome back on Demo. Today I want to propose you a special video, and it's about how and where to gain some ideas about how to sculpt or modify your models. In this case, I taken this lately released book about the dinosaurs, that it's about the theropods, that I think that it's quite important to understand how it can be developed and how in the future we see different options or different suggestions about. So I had to thank for knowing about the existence of this book Willy Sparkles, that it's from Zoosparkle channel, and I'll put the link about him in the description. It gives a lot of videos about biological and naturalistic understanding of the world, so I think that it's quite interesting that way. And a special thanks about Asier Larramendi, that it's one of the authors about this book, that let me show you some of the images. So I have the rights to make you see some a bit more detailed images about such book, and I think that it's really quite amazing to understand this book, because I'm in love for such themes, and knowing that there are a lot of information to use inside this, I think that it's really quite amazing. So I'm in love for such a book, and it's just that I was waiting for. Moreover, this is the first of a series, so in the future we see other books about the same theme with, for example, the Sauropoda or other options, and they can be really a great referring if you're going to think about, for example, someone that release armies for death, for seraphons, because there are the main armies that use this. But also, for example, think about chaos. So if you want to create some special models that have a big beast and so on, having such structures can be really quite useful as referring. Think about my video about the Wight King on Chalicotherium. If you're going to think about it, I utilize some images, some things that are from nature, and I propose it maybe modifying a bit on the field itself. But if you go also to see, for example, how there are the realizations about the different models that you can find around, you can find different and crazy versions. For example, think about models like these ones that has been quite old, and make see how there's been developed the things during the times, because they are really models that you can buy around, and they are really quite crazy. They have some structure that gain from the video of the 60 years, so it's not so great, but you can understand better how they change. But these are the crazy ones, the silly ones. You think about the models from the Games Workshop and you can gain quite a lot. And in fact, I'll make you see how they can change quite a lot the concept that you can find in the future for the models, I think. So now we can start to open and see the contents inside. One thing to understand is that this book has been released in 2019, but has been using the data of 2016, so it's updated and one of the most updated ones, but obviously the scavengers and so on are going forward each year, so it can be impossible to have everything. But if you're going to think about the references that are inside this book, they are really quite amazing, because there are a lot of referring that let you find where to find the new information, because this has not everything, but it lets you understand where to find everything, and in that way it's really quite amazing one. So we can continue and see better the contents. Here we can find the different sections in which the book itself has been divided, so we can find a lot of things inside, and you can go to see and understand better this releasing. Anyway, I think that it's impossible to make you see everything, so I simply choose some things to make you understand and see the concepts that I want to make you understand about. One thing that I find quite interesting about such book is this part, and it's about the volumetry of the dinosaurs themselves. So understand better how it's the mass of the dinosaur, how it's calculated. This is quite important for the ones that want to modify, or better, to model, so to sculpt a dinosaur or something that use such dimensions. So to better understand how it's developed, how you can create the volumetry about. So using such notes, I think that it's quite useful to understand better the concept behind this realization of the models themselves. It lets you create something that it's quite better as sites, in my opinion, because it lets you understand better how there were such animals on the real, and being able to understand better such things, I think that it's quite useful for the ones that want to create something more related about reality, or simply something that it's a bit more comprehensive. So think about, and I think that this section is really quite important one. And here we can start to see the concept behind. So we can find a lot of information about the old and the new dinosaurs. We can find about the different size, the bigger and the smaller ones. We can find about the different imprints that we can find on the feet that can create other dinosaurs or are related to the dinosaurs themselves that we recognized. So we can find a lot of different things that are really quite interesting. We can find that some of such dinosaurs can be really quite understand that you can find them quite similar in the consortium, for example. Or if you go to see, we can find that the new concept with for example, the feeders and the scheme of colors, they can be really quite interesting also in the way to understand better, for example, how to represent in certain environments the dinosaurs themselves or the animals themselves. So there is also such analysis that becomes really quite good in such a way, because it's better, make you better understand, for example, how to develop. I think that this is quite good to understand better. Obviously, for the ones that are interested to the dinosaurs themselves, it becomes amazing. But think, for example, about such model. If you think, you have also to understand that, for example, with the consortium, we can find something similar from the consortium. Think about this, that it's quite similar as concept. So there are a lot of referring about such ones, and it's quite important to understand from where they count as models. So think about such ones, because they're really quite important ones. It's up to you decide which ones are the ones that you are going to refer. Think that the mods that you are going to play are the ones that mainly are going to keep such details from, so they can be really quite interesting. So you can use this as a referring, and I think that having a lot of such options available can be really quite amazing, even if you think that you can go to create your own models, so to personalize them better. Or if you think about this one, the mod that we have seen before can be seen in the dual one with the other option of that model. So we can see, for example, this one that has been realized, and the association a lot of times with or other options that are combining with different species together. So this is really quite important to understand, I think. If you think, you can also think about creating something special. For example, such model it's something completely crazy, but can be, for example, the base for maybe a model for the Seraphon or even for Cinch. So also that can be quite good, I think, in analyzing. Think also here about such forms. They are really quite crazy, because you are not used about these ones, but they are the basis to create something completely new if you want. So it's really something that make the fantasy really compete with the reality, and I think that it's something that it's really a motor drive to your fantasy, to your desire to develop something for your own personalization. Here we can understand better the sizes, so we can think about the comparison, and we can use this as a referring for the models that you are imagining as size. Or if you want, you can take something smaller and put it bigger, and opposite. It's up to you. But it becomes really quite interesting to have such informations. Same here, so you can find also a lot of history about, so it becomes really quite important to understand how they develop the names that can be referring, even if you want to create something specific eventually. Or we can continue and we can see, for example, here about the calendar. Why this is important? Because it lets you understand how it developed the world itself, and it can be used to create your own, not the miniatures themselves, but how it was the world. So it's a way to understand better how the world has been developing, so the different ways to make living. This is really quite great about the background and about the scenic elements that you can realize to represent that specific world. Maybe because there is something that attracts you in certain reconstructions about such type of worlds. But I want to accelerate a bit and make you see another part, that it's about the bodies of the theropods, so understand better how they developed and they can be reconstructed, because there are quite a lot of information about. If you're going to think, for example, if you're going to see these bones, they can be really quite interesting to understand. For example, if you're going to create some parts, for example, for death models, or you want to create a structures, or simply about even the scenic elements again, you can use parts and understand better how they can be really put, so the different morphological ways that they can have. For example, the femurs, the vertebra, or the feet. It can be really quite this part amazing as options that you can gain from. Even these parts, quite amazing one. Understand where the parts are, what they represent are, how if you're going to create some skeleton models, you are going to need to make them understood. It's really quite amazing in my opinion. But think also about such ones, can let you understand better, for example, how some type of reconstruction can be useful. For example, think about this. It's quite old. It's something that it was about releasing in 1997. But think about this. You can understand better if it can be useful or not, if the model reconstructed can be quite verifiable. So it's really quite amazing one, I think, for the ones that are going to use different options related. This is one of the best to understand the different parts that can be available. Really quite a lot of information, quite a lot of interesting things. Simply I suggest you to take quite a lot of value in these ones, because they are really quite amazing. Here we have also the list about the different findings, so it can be also interesting about such options to understand better. What's interesting about this chapter, I think it's the part about the flies, so about the wings and so on, how they developed, how there are the different parts that we can find. So we can find a lot of information about that can be really quite useful if you want to create some winged creatures, for example. So really quite amazing one to understand better these ones. So for example, the shape of the heads in the way to have a better pressure for your teeth. So understand better how it's the structures of the model to create the idea of some actions that the model itself can create. I think that it's really quite amazing in this way, so really good. And here we have also another thing that it's amazing, and are the eggs. So if you want to represent the eggs, this can be really quite an amazing way, because it lets you understand the shapes, the colors, and even the sizes. Obviously the size you can change, but they can be a good referring. Also here we have other options, so we can find that we have different structures that we can utilize, and having different available we can say personalizations. Also here, for example, a scheme of the different sizes and shapes, a lot of informations, and you can find also where to find such information. For example, here we can find also the juvenile states of the different dinosaurs eventually, so we can understand better how to represent them eventually if you want to create something smaller, but not small because it's a small dinosaur, but really because it's the baby dinosaur itself. I think that they are really quite interesting as ways to understand. Really quite good in my opinion. And here we have really a lot of information about the work. And another thing that it's really quite important here are the footprints, because they are really important to understand, for example, what you'll find on the terrain. It's if you are going to realize, for example, a scenario or a model or a base that it's moving, to create on the base itself something that you'll find. So the dinosaurs, for example, that make the print of the footprint and so on. I think that it's good to understand how it works. Otherwise, you risk to have something like this, that it's not bad. Again, from 97, but it's something that you can understand how it can be developed. So how you can, for example, having certain type of prints based on what you're going to have as model as representing, based also on the terrain. So a lot of information. This is maybe one of the best of the informations that you can find inside here. Really quite a lot. The classifications here, it becomes really quite important to understand, for example, how there are the different footprints that you can find around. So really a lot of different options inside here. And then we have the part about the chronicles themselves of the dinosaurs. So we can find a lot of information about how the concept of the dinosaurs itself developed, and we can find a lot of information if you think that this is a sort of developing also of our relationship with them, with the future, and with the imagination that we have about them. If you think about this, here there aren't, but we can add, for example, the part about the game workshop in the future, because there are a lot of things that are, and for example, we have the parts that are about the fantasy too, because think even only about the concept of the seraphones, how they change, for example, from these models that are quite slim and so are great, with these that are modified myself, and think about the late one about the Saurus ones. So think about this, that it's about Barble, and we can find that it's a dinosaur, a lizard in a way, but related about the dinosaurs, with a lot of modifications on that has different composites inside. They can be really quite amazing and quite interesting. So this it's a chapter that makes you understand how the cultures about such dinosaurs developed, and it's really quite important to understand also the concepts behind, and you can use this as a referring for maybe try to find some ideas for your conversions eventually. So they are really quite precious information, these ones. And then we have something that is really quite interesting about, because it's the list of the Theropods. So all the names, all the information related about. This is quite interesting because it's the bibliography. It means that you can find the articles related about. You can know where to go to search because you have the referring, and it's really quite amazing because it means that if you're going to find these informations, you can go to see the main parts about where to find the referrings. And this means that you can really go to make a lot more deep investigations, so understand better everything. I think that this is, even if it doesn't seem, one of the best part about this book, because even if it's a list of the things, it's a list that comprehendes a lot of the things that are important to the ones that want to develop some aspects, some really quite a lot of information about such type of we can say dinosaurs, models, or future developments. So a lot of things that can be really quite amazing ones. So use such ones because are one of the best parts that you can find, and it's updated to the 2016, so quite important. So but this as book it's important because it's one of the base. If you think you can also use something like this to create your own personal models. I said about the Chalicotherium, but think also about the consortium with such models, for example the Ossiarch Bonereapers with the Cavallos, with the Cottis Harvester, with other things. So having something where you can base on what you are going to use. So it's really quite important to understand that the implications of having such operas can be really quite important to have inspiration about. For me it's important because I'm interested in the book itself, because I love the dinosaurs. But if you're going to think about using such type of books for having inspiration about conversion, colors, about even having something to personalize, it becomes really quite important and quite worth to gain. So, from Dino Mode it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again to the next time.